Hi and welcome to Celebrities in Pattaya. Today I have the honour of meeting a British born actor who's made it very, very big in America. He's done over 67 films. He's worked with the likes of Sylvester Stallone, Jet Li, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis and Britain's own Jason Statham. With me is a guy called Gary Daniels. You most probably know him, but he's here today on our show. Gary, nice to meet you, my friend.
Hi, mate.
Can you tell us what actually made you go into acting?
Well, I started when I was really young, actually. As a nipper, I love comic books. I love comic books, Superman, Spider-Man, all the comic book heroes, right? And then one day I went to see a preview. When I was like 8 years old, I went to see a preview. I went to see a movie, and the previews, the trailers for the following week's movie was Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. So when I saw Bruce Lee, it was like, that's the nearest thing I've ever seen to a real life superhero. So from that minute, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
I mean, Bruce Lee in the 70s and early 80s was a cult here all over Europe, you know.
All over the world.
Well, yeah. I mean, he made the things like The Big Boss and that, and then he done Enter the Dragon, The Way of the Dragon with Chuck Norris. And I think, like, you know, it brought martial arts to the front of a lot of stuff that was going on. I mean, no one knew about all this praying mantis type of fighting and all that, and you started to take it up, I believe.
Yeah, the next week, actually. The next week, my old man took me to a local kung fu class run by Lakers Jacobs and Jim Russell, and they called it Mongolian kung fu, but it was pretty much these guys had a systemized form of street fighting. They combined aikido, judo, and karate, and made this system that was rough. It was poking the eyes, grabbing the hair, chopping the throat. There was nothing flash, nothing fancy about it. It was basically for the street. So I started with those guys a week later. I was 8 years old. Did it for like 3 years, stuck it in with these guys.
And then you went on to kickboxing, I believe.
Yeah, when I was doing this Mongolian Kung Fu, I found I was very flexible. Splits and all that was really easy to me. So again, being a fan of the movies, watching all the beautiful kicks in the Chinese movies, I wanted to do that. So I went into Taekwondo. And I got my black belt in Taekwondo in 3 years, but then I got disqualified from 3 different Taekwondo tournaments for excessive contact. So I hooked up with a bloke called Mickey Byrne, who's an ex-PTI, physical training instructor from the British Army. He was 9 years in the British Army, 9 years boxing champion in the British Army. He'd done 2 years in the SAS. And I used to watch him at my gym, Brunel University in Uxbridge. I used to watch him training boxers, and I was like, wow. It was very different than traditional martial arts, because in a lot of traditional martial arts, in the dojo, in the training, you see a lot of people fighting and sparring, but it's not full contact, it's controlled. And I love the way, when I used to see Mickey Byrne train these boxers, it was a real deal. So I asked him to train me, and he'd never been a martial artist per se, but he taught me something different. He taught me how to fight, he taught me how to punch through people, how to go through people. And so, yeah, with his training we got into the PKA. That's when we started doing full contact.
Yeah, and I believe that because you went to America and had a few fights out there, and I think you got noticed by someone from Hollywood. Is that correct?
Get it roundabout sort of way. Yeah, I was fighting in America and I was training there. But then I actually got spotted by a producer who lived in the Philippines, and he said, if you come to the Philippines, being blonde-haired, blue-eyed, physique and that, I can make you a star in the Philippines. So I borrowed some money and jumped on a plane to the Philippines. But when I got there, it turns out this geezer thought that I was like some rich American that was going to give him money to make movies. And so he totally dumped me as soon as I got there. This guy called Wilfredo Milan, that's his name, so if you ever see this geezer.
Right, if you know Fredo Milan, tell him. The boys from London are going to serve him up. Anyway, carry on.
So he wouldn't even answer my phone calls. But then I was at a kickboxing tournament in a province called Cavite, and I was spotted by a talent scout. And he took me to meet a producer in Manila, this family called the Cheng family. They had a big company called Solar Films, which was the biggest distributor of American movies. They did all the Rambo movies, had all Chuck Norris's movies there. So they took me to meet the owner of this company. He asked me to do a demonstration, so we went on the roof of his building. I just showed him some stuff, and the next day signed me up for a 6-picture deal in 2 years. Put me in my own apartment. I had a couple of maids, I had a driver, and all of a sudden I thought I was living large.
Yeah, you think you'd done how we say, the next James Dean.
I was the next something.
Well, you must have something, because you've done 67 movies. Well, I mean, you've done the Expendables with an A-list of stars that is like unbelievable. And they called you the Brit.
It did indeed, but that wasn't what originally in the script. Originally in the script, I was like Special Ops number 2 or something, actually. And I was called by the stunt coordinator because Stallone was looking for actors that could fight. He didn't want the actors to be doubled when it came to all the action. He wanted guys that would get down and dirty and do the rough stuff. So the coordinator is a guy that I'd brought in on a few of my films earlier in his career when he was starting out. So he took me to meet Stallone. I had like a 20-minute one-on-one with Sly. We talked about it, and I guess it went well because the next day the coordinator said, "Sly, I'd like to you on board," you know. So I was very lucky. But as the first 5 weeks we were in Brazil, shooting in Brazil, and I would talk to Stallone about how to do some of the blocking and this and that and how I wanted to play the character. And originally it was written American, and I said, you know what, Jason's in this and I'm supposed to fight him at the end. Why don't you... I kind of created a backstory where if we were both Brit it would make more sense, and Sly liked it. And the last day on the set, he actually put his arm around me and said, Gary, I love what you're doing with this character. I want to expand your role, but I have to do it without adding days to the schedule. So I was like, well, I've been thinking about this actually.
which any actor would do, would like to expand his role and have more screen presence.
Exactly.
That's the name of the game.
So we had a chat, and then we went back to LA. We had a week's hiatus, went to New Orleans, and when we got there, he gave us a new script, all the pink pages, and he'd actually added everything that we talked about and more. So I was very, very fortunate.
So, like, it's going to be a battle very soon, I think, between you and Jason Statham to see who's the number one bad guy. Because Jason does martial arts as well.
Well, he's not a martial artist per se. He was an Olympic diver, actually, and I think he's only really learnt martial arts through all the choreography. And because he worked with Yun Kuei, one of the top on the Transporter series, he worked with Yun Kuei, one of the top action directors from Hong Kong. So I think he just learnt through movies. And when you work with him, Jason's a great guy. He's a hard worker. But I don't think he has years of history in the martial arts.
I mean, I know Jason very well. I've done Snatch and Revolver with him back in the UK for Guy Ritchie. And he's very tunnel visioned actor. You know, you can't go near, he can't talk to it, he just sits there, he's getting himself into his character, and then he goes out and puts a performance in, and you just look at it and you go, wow. And that is what is a true actor, when they're actually sort of know the character inside out that they're playing.
Sure.
You know, because some people, they go on and they just talk and they don't, and the character that they're supposed to be is not believable.
Right.
And to me, I find you've got to be believable. Well, that's what sells tickets, that's what puts bums on seats, as we say.
Well, he's done and he's definitely done that. He's done very well. He's had a great career. You know?
Yeah. So, can you tell us why you're in Thailand? What you're in Thailand for?
Well, I love Thailand, for one.
Who doesn't?
I used to come here and stay in Muay Thai camps, several different Muay Thai camps. I trained for a month. I actually fought over here a couple of years ago. And about 4 years ago, I got offered a film over here with Danny Trejo and Bai Ling, and we shot that here. And I kept coming back, and in the last year, I've done like 4. This is my 5th film I've done here. I'm actually here to do a film right now called The Stranger in Paradise. It's got Stuart Townsend, another Irish actor actually, a very good Irish actor, and Colin Eggleston. And it's a very, very good script, but I was contacted by the executive producer. His wife is a friend of mine. We've worked on a couple of films, of course, so she called me and asked me if I'd get involved. So here I am.
Well, anyway, it's nice of you to spare us your time.
My pleasure.
There you go, people. This is the man to watch, Gary Daniels.
Sawadee Cup.